US President Donald Trump has been branded a climate arsonist as wildfires burning across the west coast in America have become a hot political issue. He visited California for briefings on the growing disaster, insisting that scientists are wrong and that it will get cooler. Democratic rival Joe Biden accuses Trump of failing to acknowledge global warming's effect on the wildfires, which have killed at least 35 people and have destroyed thousands of homes. Heidi Jo Castro has this report.
Exhausted firefighters are doing what little they can to battle the monster infernos, consuming towns and homes and lives. Monday's drier conditions and gusting winds meant no respite as nearly 100 fires continue to burn across 12 states. Yet these otherworldly scenes aren't new. California has now experienced several summers of severe wildfires, realizing predictions of a climate report released by the White House in 2018. But President Trump, who flew to California for fire briefings, continues to deny man-made climate change exists.
It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Well, I don't think science knows, actually.
Trump has repeatedly blamed the wildfires on Democrats, accusing them of mismanaging forest lands in western states. As the election nears, he's dug into the pro-fossil fuel policies of his administration. Former Vice President Joe Biden, who's seeking to replace Trump in the White House, challenged his record in a speech from Delaware.
If we have 4 more years of Trump's climate denial, how many suburbs will be burned in wildfires? How many suburban neighborhoods will have been flooded out? How many suburbs will have been blown away in superstorms? If you give a climate arsonist 4 more years in the White House, why would anyone be surprised if we have more America ablaze?
But for the Americans suffering fires in the West and new hurricane threats in the Southeast, the candidates' campaign promises offer little consolation as destruction becomes the new normal. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera.
So that's California in the United States. The fire season is also a lot worse than usual in Brazil's Pantanal region. The world's largest tropical wetland is burning at a record pace. There have been more than 10,000 fires across the Pantanal since the start of September. That's 3 times the figure compared to last year. 16% of the region has been burned. And the region's worst drought in 47 years is making it harder for firefighters to control the fires. It is one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet, and it is being threatened by the fires. The Pantanal is home to hundreds of animal species, dozens of them endangered. All right, let's take this on. We can speak now to Tom Burke, who's chairman at Third Generation Environmentalism and joins us live by Skype from London. So, Tom, in North and South America, the devastation is all too plain to see. Tell us, first of all, despite what Donald Trump says, how climate change has affected these fires. It's making it considerably worse, right?
Yes, it is indeed. And we are increasingly understanding why that is, because in a warmer atmosphere, you have more water evaporated from the ocean, and that water gets cycled back. So you increase the velocity with which water cycles through the Earth's system. And that means, exactly as we're seeing, that dry areas get drier and wet areas get wetter. And we've also, if you recall, we've had extraordinary floods in China, for instance, this year, as well as the fires and the hurricanes and all the rest of it. So it's exactly what the science is telling us will happen is actually happening. It's not a future problem. It's a now problem that can only get worse if we don't do a lot more.
So, Mr. Trump's view that this is a case in California of poor forest management is completely wrong?
Yes. The thing about President Trump on science is he's completely consistent. Just as when he was told the virus was dangerous and he should act urgently on it, he said the science was wrong. He's saying exactly the same because of climate change. He's saying the science is wrong, and that means instead of doing something, he does nothing, and people's lives are lost and people's lives are disrupted. Now, that's a consistent pattern, actually, interestingly enough, not just with President Trump, but by and large with authoritarian leaders in many parts of the world.
Of course,
they deny the science.
Absolutely. It's not just the
Sorry.
wildfires, is it? As the West burns, the Arctic is melting, and the National Hurricane Center is tracking, 8 hurricanes, 8 storms at this very moment. It's been a record hurricane year so far. The effects just go on and on.
Yes, that's right. And these are just the harbingers of the storm to come if we don't act very violently. I think, as you say, the Atlantic, it's now the second time in history that there have been as many times storms as there are at the moment in the Atlantic. And that since about they started recording this in about the 1850s. So we're getting very clear message from the planet through the scientists about the need to act urgently. And it's really very damaging to people's future prospects when leaders like President Trump simply deny the science in order to avoid having to do things.
Now, of course, Tom, 2020 was supposed to be a pivotal year for progress in fighting the climate crisis, with a major climate summit which is postponed later this year in the UK. It's all been foiled by the COVID pandemic. How much of a setback is that?
Actually, I think in the current circumstances, it's probably less of a setback than it might have been. Obviously, any year's delay is a bad delay in doing things. But frankly, with the prospect that we might have a better president of the United States after the election in November, then delaying it till next year increases the chances that we'll have some progress made at that meeting. I think with Donald Trump pulling out of the climate agreement, then it would have weakened the prospects for an agreement this year. So I think we've got a somewhat better chance. So fortunately, we've got something to thank the virus for.
All right. Well, Tom, I appreciate your expertise on this. Thanks very much indeed. Tom Burke speaking to us there. Thank you.